Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. How are you all doing today? Hello. I'm seeing a lot of people already saying hello. Please go ahead and type a yes in the chat box if you're able to see us and if you're able to hear me. Nobody else is saying anything yet, so you won't be able to
Good evening,
hear
good evening,
anything yet.
everyone.
There we go. Yes. So if you're
Hey,
able to
good evening,
see us,
guys.
yes, if you're able to see us and hear us, please type a yes. Wonderful. Thank you, Rishabh. Very kind of you. Thank you, Vaishnavi Chintan. Thank you, Suhail, Kunal. Thank you so much. You probably see my video disappear. Not to worry. That's most likely because my signal has dropped a little bit. If anybody's video disappears at any time, it's probably because there's a signal lag that's taken place. So you'll still be able to hear us. The Mindler team is also online to be able to help you, assist you with the questions and other elements there. So don't worry. We will be watching the chat box, and wherever there is any question that comes up that we can answer right in the middle, we'll do that. Otherwise, we'll be able to help you through that at the end. And the team will be working on providing you information and links as and when there's a question that they can immediately help you with. Right. So after I've completely hijacked that first part, Savine, over to you.
So perfect, guys. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. So this webinar is brought to you by Mindler in association with NIIT University and Vijay Bhumi University. Mindler is one of the India's leading career counseling platforms. We use one of the world's most advanced psychometric assessments to evaluate you on 5 dimensions important for career success. Mindler's experienced career counselors will then provide personalized sessions based on your motivators, work style, etc. Guide you regarding how you can plan your career path, etc. You'll get answers to all your career-related queries through all-round expert support or emails. Check out our website, mindler.com, for more details post the webinar. So we have with us Dr. Venkatesh Sunkad from Vijay Bhumi University. He has 20 plus years of industry experience in telecom, cable, wireless industry 4.0 and IoT. He currently works at INSOF as a mentor, Dean, New Product Development, and also being appointed as Dean for INSOF School of Data Science at Vijay Bhumi University. His education includes MBA from University of Denver, Masters in Electrical Engineering from University of Texas, and doctorate from University of Colorado. He has been featured as a top 50 cable technologist in Cable Today magazine in USA. Welcome, sir. Welcome to the webinar.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your introduction.
We have Professor Eswaran Narasimhan from NIIT University. He has earned his BTech and MTech at IIT Kharagpur in Agriculture and Dairy and Food Engineering, respectively. After his management studies at IIM Ahmedabad, he joined NIIT. His work was centered around student and corporate training, curriculum design, and development and consulting. At NIIT Technologies, his work involved algorithms and heuristics development and promoting innovation activities. He is a co-inventor for 2 patents in the field of software engineering. It's our pleasure to have you on board with us, sir. So,
Thank you very much, Savine.
Thank you, sir. So we have Shilpa ma'am, leading life coach, and she is our rock star at Mindler, who is our the go-to person for all our counseling. And yes, he has got 25 years plus experience in the career counseling domain. Coming to me, myself, Savinay Patlola. I'm an IIT Kharagpur alum, again, somewhat knowledgeable in data science. That's why I will be kind of taking you through some brief examples on what is data science. I'm also currently CTO at Mindler. So pleasure to meet you all. Good evening, everyone, once again. So let's quickly start our presentation. So let's understand. So what is data science? So now the topic is like, it has been rolling around. What is data science? We'll go walk you through the power of data science, etc. Right? So this is the structure of the presentation which we'll walk you through. Shilpa ma'am, you here?
Yes, I'm here. My video has died because my signal is low, but I'm still here. I hope I'm audible to everyone.
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Super. Okay. Thank you very much, Savine, for the wonderful introductions that you've given. You, as always, been super kind. Okay, so when we were talking about data science and it came down to us doing this webinar, my first thought was speaking about data science seems like a really weird thing to do simply because I am completely a non-maths person, and so when I see numbers I get completely freaked out and scared, and in fact I end up giving more money to somebody so that they give me back the change so that I don't have to calculate. So that's the level of fear of mathematics that exists for me. But I realized that I needed to be able to simplify data science to understand it, because it's what we're saying every day, it's what we're using every day. And at the end of the day, what ended up happening for me was a lot of learning regarding data science. So I want to kind of demystify what data science is, because we throw the word around so much. And of course, our two esteemed panelists will also be able to help us when they're speaking. Please understand, and with no coming at it from a complete layperson's viewpoint. Data science purely and simply means this: there is a large amount of information that comes at us on a very regular basis. It comes at us from a lot of different sources. It can be coming at us online. It can come from what we read. It can come from what we hear, and there is a lot of information that comes in. A data analyst or a data scientist is able to take all of that data and be able to sort through it to ask the right questions for the data to give them answers. And so when we're looking at it, is what we need to be able to just acknowledge is the fact that we consume information and data on a regular basis, and therefore we need to be able to understand the importance of data science. And this is one area I think that is not going to go away. For the next 20, 30, 40 years, we're going to be more and more embedded in data as we go forward. So for us, it becomes important to be able to look at data science to understand who is going to use data science, where is it going to be applicable, what are the kind of different roles that will come in, what are some of the careers that will come in from there, and what are some of the skills apart from the technical skills that you will need in order to be a successful data scientist. So that's kind of what we're going in at. And they're basically the survey says, as they say, which survey says is also part of surveys are also part of data analytics. Survey says that statisticians and data scientists are going to be the hottest entity for the next 20 years at least. So right now it's a really cool thing if you're a maths buff and you're a maths nerd. So that's a really great thing if you can do that. All right, so let's move forward. So data science, primarily pure and simple, simplified. Information comes at you and you might make sense of it, and the applications of that could be in different industries as we'll take you forward. Right. Shall we move to the next slide? I think Savini, you're in charge. Yeah. Okay, so just walking us through this. So data science, here what I want you to be able to focus on, and not just the definition, but the element that it's a multidisciplinary function, that it picks from different functions, it picks from different disciplines, and it is bringing together and the amalgamation of numbers and information that will come through in every single area. So from economics to human resources, to restaurant chains, to figuring out what the next trends are going to be in elections. Every single thing is going to use and work from a data science perspective. And basically you're using mathematical tools in ensuring and hoping that there is no bias when we're looking at what the results with those data from that data will be. So the aim is that the biases are what is removed when we're looking at data and the information that comes at data from that. Right. Okay, we move to the next slide. Yeah. Okay, so here are some of the examples which I think we should all be able to relate to when it comes to how data science is applicable. So like I said, applications in many industries. So one of the most common applications that you will be able to see is the fact that Netflix uses data science very, very effectively. And I think the fact that Netflix became as successful as it did is because they were using their data very effectively. They mine through all the information of people and what they're clicking on, what you're watching. Are you clicking on documentaries? Are you clicking on, comedies? Are you watching stand-up comedians? What are you watching? And then you will see it in the banner, plain and simple, right there for you, based on what you watched. Because you watched this, you may also like. And this is something that Netflix has done brilliantly to be able to get the content out to people, and so you watch that. And also here, the important thing for you to be able to remember is it also depends on what you're clicking and what you're figuring out to see what content comes your way. So if you want to be able to expand that, you need to be able to understand, therefore, that what data points go into a particular algorithm are going to hold the most importance. So if you're giving it the same data, it will give you similar results. But if you give it variety data, it will give you a variety of output. In this case, for Netflix, it would be the fact that if you're clicking on documentaries or you're clicking on autobiographies and comedies and thrillers and horror movies, you'll just get a wider variety of information. Similarly, Amazon and Spotify, they all use data analytics to be able to either recommend things to you, to be able to figure out which areas of the city are getting a lot of their orders so they can figure out their logistics for that. All of these areas, those are some of the elements that Amazon would end up using data analytics for. But most of Amazon data analytics will be predictive in nature to be able to help you buy the right things or recommend things to you. Spotify will, again, same way as Netflix, recommend music to you that you may want to be able to study. Gmail does the same thing when it does the filtering of its information. So it mines data, tags it, information gets added, and you are able to move things to spam. It'll even go as far as looking at your inbox, and if you haven't opened mails from a certain type of address, it'll go back as to telling you, are you sure? Do you want to move this into spam because you haven't opened this inbox, this message for a very long time? So there are certain messages that come in that you don't ever open, and Gmail will actually ask you that. So it's a predictive process as well. So if you, for example, an organization like the Procter & Gamble, which is a fast-moving consumer goods organization, they make toothpaste, they make shampoo, you use their products every day. How do they figure out now what's the next product that's going to run? How do we figure out what's the flavor that's going to work best in our toothpaste? What's going to make the most sense when it comes to the shampoos or the smells that are working right now? All of that is taking in from what consumers are asking for when they take feedback. What is it that in which parts of the cities are they selling? Where do they launch products first? Do they launch certain products in tier 1, tier 2? Are there certain places that they will launch first before others? There was this used to be a time when I worked in the textile industry, which said that if you launched your textile designs, for example, bed sheets or anything that had to do with houseware or even your clothes, if you launched in Chandigarh first, you will get a prediction of what's going to run, because Chandigarh was supposed to be the most fashion forward city in the north at that point of time. So Bombay Dyeing would launch their designs for their bed sheets in Chandigarh first. They got that information from buying habits. That was very rudimentary data analytics that was being done in the early 90s. Now, of course, data analytics is involving humongous amounts of technology, which of course Savinay understands way better than I do. And I'm not even going to attempt to be able to explain that to you, but they're very large computers. And it's a lot of server speed and all sorts of fancy things that I get confused by, but that's Savinay's department. He'll take over. My job was to be able to try and break it down and try to explain it the way I understood it from a complete layperson's perspective. So I hope I've done that justice and Savinay will be able to tell me if I've done that justice. Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's try to demystify what is that huge data science or huge servers. Why is it required, right? So what is this actually? There is people say big data, data science in correlation, right? So in fact, big data is just kind of a data source of the entire data science. So as you can see on the right side image here, right? So every 60 seconds, this is I think as per 2019 stats, every 60 seconds, 694,000 hours of Netflix has been watched, 4.5 million YouTube videos have been watched. So that is the average throughout 2019. Now, an article by Forbes states that data is growing faster than ever before. There is about 1.7 MB per second of new information for every human being on the planet. So where is this data actually going? What are we doing with it? So big data is not exactly data science. Big data is a phrase used to kind of a massive volume in both structured and unstructured data, that it is so large that it is difficult to process using any single computer or something. That is where all of you might be listening this perception of data science is so huge that big data will not be able to handle big data and stuff like that, right? So let's kind of understand what is this data science. So this is a kind of industry standard data science hierarchy you can see here. So let's not look at this complex terminology. You can see some anomaly detection, A/B testing, etc., etc. Let's skip this, and I have tried to simplify that entire data science hierarchy matrix pyramid into a simple pyramid like this. So what happens? Let's look at the bottom of the pyramid, right? First step is data selection or data gathering. What does this mean? Let's take a simple example. So ma'am was saying Amazon, Netflix, right? Let's look at Amazon as a simple example. So when you browse any products in your browser, in your mobile, anywhere, right? That data from your browsing history, that data from your device, which device are you using? Based on that entire data collection is the first level of that pyramid in the entire data science. then what happens after that? As some of the students were mentioning, you already gone through that courses of DBMS and stuff, right? So kind of capturing that data and storing it in some database. It can be a single database, it can be multiple databases. So kind of cleaning that data and storing that data is a second step of that pyramid. So collecting that data, you store that data. So once you browse something on Amazon, suppose let's say you have just visited one page, then you visit a second page on an Amazon browsing, right, of any product. So the linkage between that visiting is also kind of captured, not just individual pages, right? So that's how the database are being designed to capture the flow of every user. Now, what happens after that? Knowledge extraction. What does this mean? Suppose let's say there is a premium user doing something on a product. Let's say on an Amazon, I have already purchased, suppose let's say 50,000 rupees worth of products in last 1 month, and I'm viewing some product. So that data is much more valuable to Amazon compared to someone who has just signed up and who haven't made any purchase previously, right? That kind of data filtering and that kind of data prioritization happens once it is stored. You kind of assign a value and you kind of assign that importance to every data point, right? Now, this is not done manually. Of course, there are a lot of algorithms to do this assignment in the backend. Now, once that is done, there is something called visualization. Let's say what kind of visualization? Now, you see Netflix, right? Now, recently after the lockdown, Netflix has introduced this top 10 in India section, right? Now, where does this come from? So they have kind of captured all the data points of number of viewers for every video, right? Even not only that, now let's say you get this recommended for you while buying something. You kind of see that entire horizontal section on Amazon and Flipkart, recommended for you, recommended to buy, right? Now, where does this come from? If you're viewing any product, so data of purchase of that product is being captured in the system, and all those users, whoever has purchased that particular product which you are viewing, their entire browser history has been processed and visualized and understood what is the top second purchase possibility that is being recommended to you in the recommendation. So that entire visualization happens after giving some importance to that particular data in the backend. Then after that visualization, then comes the AI ML. So when people say that you have to build a career in artificial intelligence or machine learning, it is not so simple ki you just take some data and put some algorithm and you get an output. It is not exactly that simple. It's more about passing that entire hierarchy and structuring that data. So now any unstructured data, if you kind of apply an ML algorithm, it might not even learn properly. It might not even give you a better output for that matter, right? So kind of passing through every of these steps is important for data to be valuable and for the machine to learn properly and give you a proper output. Now, when Netflix is giving you that recommendations and stuff, it has passed that stage. Now, when it is past that stage, it is really giving you that relevant recommendation. Now, after you completed a movie, what is that next upcoming movie coming up, right? Now, it is based on genre of the movie. It is based on the browsing history of other users. There are like 40 such parameters which are captured and which are analyzed and processed for you to be recommended, like the next movie to be recommended, right? That is how AML is used. Now, let me give you another example, right? How AML can be kind of problematic sometimes. Now, let's say I've been watching a particular set of films, a particular genre of films over a period of 15 days in Netflix, right? It is really tough for you to change your genre and search for a new movie at a time. The AML has learned so much about you over the past 30 days. It has decided that you're going to watch this set of movies. That's how your recommendations are being shown. Now, if you really want to kind of change something from a complete action thriller to a devoting kind of movie or a documentary, right? It will take you at least 5 minutes to search for that movie, even if you know that it is in Netflix.
Yeah.
Right. That is how AML is kind of creating some problems for that industry also. Right. Shilpa, hope I have clarified in terms of simple terms how this.
Yes, it makes a lot of difference. I think that we just need people to understand. Yeah.
In terms of technical terms, this is not only used for your browsing history, this is used across different industries. So, ma'am, can you walk us through different industries and applications of this data
science? Most
Most
certainly. I'll try my best to be able to do that. So actually what we need to be able to remember is, and I saw a question just fly past because everybody's asking such brilliant questions as well, and we are being able to get a lot of the answers out. So for example, what are the different industries that data science will be part of? Actually, every single industry will use data science and every function will use data science. So we want to give you a little bit of a brief on how that will work. The question that I saw flying past was, how will data analytics or data science science be a part of actuarial science actually? And Atin has just answered that question for Arjun, so I just need to be able to kind of add to that. So an actuary is an actually, I hope I made that clear. Sorry, I'm going to trip over my own words. Is somebody who really is at the base level of it a data scientist, because they are just taking in so much information to be able to assess risk, from age to place where you live, to what is it you do for a living, to how much money you earn, to whether you have a post-graduation degree or a PhD or an undergrad, what your education levels are, what the pollution levels are in your city, whether there are road accidents, what kind of all of those elements come in. And so actuaries really use data science to a huge immense advantage to be able to design the products that they use. Similarly, when you're looking at, say, for example, banking will use data science to be able to create better fraud detection or manage credit risk, in the sense that who are the kind of people that you want to be able to give credit cards to, what are their credit histories like, have they been defaulting on payments, how are you going to reward your customers with being able to, say, pay bills on time, or what is it that what can you give them like freebies on? Can you give them things that are like, oh, you've been a loyal customer for so much time, we're going to give you this much off on go to get two free tickets for a movie or something like that. So when you're looking at, say, for example, fraud detection is, I see, one of the questions that are coming in. That would be something related to what are the kind of inputs that are being taken in from a customer when they're putting in information, how much of that information is true based on the data that they have already provided for you, which is why you'll get banks sending you a lot of messages saying, our bank will not ask you for a PIN, our bank will not, our person is not authorized to ask you that, do not give that information to anyone, don't give anyone an OTP. Those are the elements that come in, because those are aspects that will be there at data points that are specific only to you. Manufacturing massively uses data science to be able to figure out how much production and when does it need to be ramped up, what are the seasonalities of their production bases, whether it is automobiles or it is food production or it is cans of food or it is mobile phones, what are the seasons in which it will happen. So when you have an Apple launch that takes place and everybody is watching this great event that takes place, and then there is a surge, so they've already planned for how much the demand is going to be, looking at past information on how buying habits were looked at. They will manufacturing will use data science to create the right systems and processes, to create the right SOPs to do work. Healthcare is somewhere where I think data science gets used so massively, especially in an area like bioinformatics and data drug discovery, and predictive health, where they're able to use inputs. They're able to use things like biomarkers. So those of you who are biology students here will realize that. So biomarkers give you indications of what's happening in your body at different levels, and healthcare will use those data points and to be able to predict what are the possibilities of risk in terms of particular diseases that could come up, what do you have propensities for. Bioinformatics used massively to be able to figure out genetics in code, so maths and bio coming together. Drug discovery on how, right now, for example, with this whole situation we're in with COVID, healthcare is using data points so massively to be able to understand how is this virus behaving, what are the changes it's going through, what is the information. And this has been the most amazing example of seeing data come together, where scientists from across the world have worked in a unified force to get information out. Medical imaging and figuring out if this certain kind of imaging happens, what are the possibilities of, say, for example, in PET scans, an oncologist using that to figure out what is the spread going to be like, maybe for cancer cells, etc. Transportation definitely uses data science. So Elon Musk and Tesla would use data science to be able to look at predictive behavior, figure out data points, sensors, what kind of movement is there of traffic for self-driving cars, car monitoring systems even within your car right now using data science. And as you get smarter cars, they'll be using data science more to be able to figure out shortest routes to, you already have that when you have your Google map, you can enter it as home and work. So that's where it comes in. And for like elements enhancing passenger safety, obviously, where you're making the right kind of seat belts, taking customer feedback, you're making the right kind of car bodies to be able to enhance and withhold impact. All of those elements come in. And now you're looking about it saying, yeah, but that's about building a car. But the use of it and the application is they took in all that information from past data points. They took in all that information from current data points, and they were able to then figure out how to do it better, which is what data analytics is about. Are you asking the right question? How do I make the car safer? What were the issues that happened? And so how do you make a car safer? And that's where it'll come in. E-commerce, like Samini greatly explained with Netflix and Amazon, e-commerce uses data analytics all the time to market you stuff, to sell you stuff, to give you predictive analysis. And you may also like, based on the author you bought, you may also want, you bought the tennis racket, you may want tennis shoes, that kind of a thing. And of course, in finance and management, data analytics massively used as well. Who are the customers who are paying, who are our defaulters, how long is our credit time, when do we need to be able to start giving reminders, from figuring out, okay, how do we make stock markets safer, how do we make trading safer, and a lot of, from what I learned as well, and a lot of the stock markets outside of India using data analytics to be able to look at when you're doing algorithmic trading, which is where you're using the data science to be able to do trading on a stock market. Human resources uses data science to figure out attrition rates. It uses data science to figure out impact of training. It uses data science to be able to figure out more and more data science is going to get used to be able to figure out and remove bias, hopefully, from hiring processes where people will get hired based on skill sets and not on gender or skin color, and those biases get removed. So human resources uses it there. It figures it out to what are the seasonalities of when we need more people to come into work in maybe manufacturing units or otherwise. And predictive analysis of what the market looks like when it comes to, plotting salaries or looking at increments or bonuses. So every single space uses data science. And so therefore, what you need to be able to remember is you will end up encountering data science at some point of time, no matter what you choose to study in the long run, whether it is data analytics in particular or any other area. The importance of being able to get comfortable with data science therefore becomes imperative at this stage. All right, super. I don't have the controls, Savinay, unfortunately.
No problem, no problem.
Yeah.
So there was a good question by one of our audience, Jasnoor Gandhi. Like he asked, what is the difference between data scientist and data analyst, right? So as I explained in the hierarchy, right, there are like three different major roles. There are like a lot of careers out of data science. There are three different major roles in terms of functionality or in terms of even technical skills required in this domain. Like what are they? Data engineer, data analyst, and data scientist. So what do they do individually? As we have described that initial example, when we are saying, okay, browser-wise data capture and storing that data into the databases, the first two levels of that pyramid, when you say how to collect the data and where to store that data, creating that APIs, creating that data pipelines, this is done by data engineer. So data engineers are generally coming from a computer science background, where you need that proper coding skills and also some understanding of data, and also a good amount, 90% of the knowledge is required from the computer science background, right? So data engineer role is to kind of capture the data in a defined database, right? Now, what does a data analyst do? Data analyst is someone who can understand that data and also visualize it and kind of create some reports on what is that data saying. What do I mean by that? So suppose let's say if there is a particular demand for a particular product, if there is a particular correlation between multiple products, if they can visualize it in that way, that data analyst is someone who can really understand that data and visualize it better. Now, data scientist is someone who can perform advanced statistics and apply this deep learning or machine learning. So I'll give you one example of deep learning, right? Now, all of you use your Amazon Prime accounts, right? So correlating your data in terms of your browsing history, giving you recommendations inside your product for shopping is one level of learning or machine learning, right? Now, correlating that and kind of using it for deep learning between your Amazon account for shopping and your Amazon Prime Video account, right? If you can kind of have so many verticals and so much correlation between that data, that is when this deep learning or advanced statistics come into picture. Even inside one tool also, there is a lot of advanced statistics, machine learning, which comes into picture. So these are the kind of main differences between these three different roles. So in terms of background for data analyst or data scientist, I would say for data scientist, maths and stats core knowledge is definitely required. I wouldn't say degree for anything. I am talking about pure knowledge perspective. For data science, mathematics knowledge is highly required, very high, maths and statistics. Without that, you'll not be able to understand and kind of process any data for any machine learning model. Now, data analyst comes from a generic background. Generally, you don't need either computer science knowledge or complete maths knowledge. It's more about understanding numbers and be quick in visualizing the business requirements, understanding the business, and using some database tools. That is what is required for a data analyst to be performing their job, right? This is the main difference between these three roles.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to some careers. So, yeah, please.
Yeah, great. So these are some of the terms, some of the designations that you might see flying around that you may hear about. So anywhere there's an analyst or a scientist, an engineer. Remember the whole whenever you have an engineer situation, there is the PCM requirement that will come in. Data analytics consultants, or anywhere your analysts or science is happening, as Savin has just very rightly explained, the comfort with statistics and numbers does need to be there. So I saw somebody saying that, can I be from humanities and do this? If you have a comfort with numbers and stats, humanities uses data analytics as well in psychology when we do research. So yes, if there's a comfort with numbers and stats, you most certainly can look at it. But remember that along with the kind of skills or the kind of designations that could be there, there are other skills that you do require as well. So the data analysts and data scientists do need to be able to understand trends. They need to be able to see patterns, and they need to be able to track that and be able to understand historical data and make sense of it. I think one of the key skills also that is there is being able to look at something like asking the right questions. What do I want the data to tell me? What do I want to get from this information? And so asking the right questions becomes important, which gets us to the last and probably in order of importance, the most important skill is the ability to communicate effectively. You can't get the most amazing insight out of data and not be able to effectively communicate it to the world. It will be pointless. So even with the COVID situation, there was somebody who wrote the most mind-boggling article about putting together all the data points and what was happening with COVID to predict when the hotspots would happen, when we should lock down, what needs to be done. But that data scientist was outstanding in his communication of what he learned from looking at all those data points. So your communication skills need to be you have to be on top of your game to be able to express. A brilliant insight is useless if you're not able to express it properly. So your language skills, your ability to communicate effectively, of course, will be a huge space that you'll be working in there. And as more and more people get into this space, your analytical skills, asking the right questions, communication is going to come to the fore for even organizations that are going to be hiring data scientists and data analysts as they go forward, and even hiring data engineers. So those are some of the inputs that I'd like to be able to give from what the soft skills elements are. So I hope I covered all of that.
Thank you, Shilpa, for that. So let's quickly take some opinion from our esteemed professors we have with us. Professor Eswaran, Dr. Venkatesh, can we have you online? Yes.
Yes.
So, sir, we have got a lot of questions from students in terms of eligibility for the course, eligibility criteria for the course, right? So can students from all streams pursue this, or is maths 12th a compulsory requirement to pursue data science as a career? So can we get thoughts from your university perspectives?
Sure, I can answer that, and then Professor Narasimhan can definitely add it to it.
Sure, please.
So, hey, first of all, thanks. Appreciate Mindler for having me an opportunity to be part of this event. So definitely. So the question is, can people without maths background continue? It depends upon, So definitely for any data science, you need a little bit of math. So I'm not saying a lot of math. Depends upon what type of degree do you want to pursue. If you are pursuing, let's say, a BSc in data science, which is more of the three job titles you said, right? Which is more for a business analyst type of a job. Definitely then, the math component is not more. But if you want to do a BE in artificial intelligence or a master's degree, or let's say for you to become a data scientist or sometimes a data engineer, I think the math component is very, very relatively very high. But what I would say is, I think most universities, and including our universities, we would start from the basics, which means to say we expect students to have high school math, which I think most people in high school would definitely go through that, people. But with that, it is the question is how do we mold the students? And that is a very critical component of any educational institute.
Awesome. Professor Eswaran, can we have your opinion?
Yes, I think as Professor Venkatesh said, it's very important to understand that your basic high school math is enough to start you off. But depending on your orientation and what is it you're looking for example, some students display enormous level of curiosity and some amount of analytic capabilities, and they are able to do a cause and effect relationship very well in natural systems as well as in business terms. So they are probably inclined towards data analysis, and hence the math is not required so much because you have a innate nature to understand what is a cause and effect within the system, and therefore you're able to seek business insights. But on the other hand, yeah, on the other hand, if you are saying that I am interested in looking at software systems which can learn by itself, for which I can teach it in some fashion, then your ability to teach and make a system learn by itself is a much higher order activity which you have to do, for which, as was mentioned, some amount of math and in some cases pretty deep math is required as you go up. But this is an interest which you develop after the first 2-3 years of your BTech, and hence what happens is that you are clear as to what you want to know, and then if you find out that you need to delve deep into it, you automatically pick up courses which are specializing in those areas, and you will develop. But on the other hand, if you are saying I'm very much interested in coding, I like to do a lot of programming, then obviously you're interested in data marshalling, and that's what gives you a creative urge which is satisfying. Therefore, you're involved in getting data from different sources, put them in order, put them into a database, allow people to query on it, and make that very easy. And that could be your skill set. So your skill set will also determine what is it you like to do ahead. And you can transit from one to the other depending on how you view your visual hierarchy. So you could start as a data engineer, and as was shown, you could probably gravitate towards being a data scientist depending on what skills you acquire as you go by. And in our institute, we allow for all these three to happen because specialization comes later on in the later part of the third year or fourth year, where you can understand your skill set and accordingly match it.
I was actually getting to that point, sir. So actually, I graduated from IIT Kanpur like 8 years ago. We didn't have any course till that time in terms of data science. There was no full-time course per se, right? So data science has always been visualized as kind of more of a short-term certificate course at least like 10 years ago. But today, like, what are the benefits of pursuing a specialized data science course as compared to pursuing a short-term certificate course and building a career on it?
Yeah.
So what happens is that when you spend 4 years and trying to say I've become specialized in data science, or basically you're having a foundation for what you would later be called as a data scientist. But when you start from fresh, you are looking at understanding data, managing it, and marshalling it. So when you have some basic requirement, then you go through a course. But when you want to do a short-term course, it is more to upgrade and skill a particular piece of activity. So for example, a data analyst could go and take a short-term course in time series management. So what he's basically saying that I understand data analysis, but I would like to understand somewhat more deeper in how to manage financial data, for example, which is a slightly different cup of tea. And hence, they will do a short-term course. So short-term course is more for skilling and understanding a particular aspect of knowledge in a much more deeper manner so that you are able to apply it to your job immediately.
Got it. Dr. Venkatesh, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, definitely. And that's a really good question, right? Because as you can see today, if you just search online or anywhere, right, there are a lot of courses that's been offered. Obviously, now because of the situation, there's a lot of online courses. And so one advantage I feel, and especially, depends upon where are you in your career. Let's say, for example, you finish your 12th and you want to have a, start that. So I would say our formal 4-year degree would be a really formal 4-year or a 3-year degree, depending upon if you want to do a BSc or a BTech in data science or AI. Makes a huge sense because the way I see it is data science is just not understanding algorithms or something. The way I see it, data science should be a 360-degree education. In addition to that, you need to understand a little bit of other things. For example, you need to understand law. You need to understand human liberal arts. Why do you need to understand law? There are a lot of privacy issues. So for example, how do I treat the data? Exactly. Similarly, there's a lot of things. For example, you talked about autonomous cars. Today, let's say, for example, an autonomous car gets you into an accident. Who is responsible for it, right? Is it the driver or the manufacturer? So there are a lot of things that are talking about. Similarly, when you get into, for example, drones, how do I do the drone? So there are a lot of legal and issues that every government, every country in the world is getting into. Similarly, you need to understand, for example, finance, because you did a fantastic job saying these are the different projects. Now, what is the ROI on a data science project? Because what is happening in some cases is data science is being used as a word for everything. It's like a hammer for every nail. Is it has the same hammer for every nail? Not necessary, right? And these are the things that you need to learn in a 4-year degree. In addition to data science, what I feel is the 360 education is what I think a 4-year degree gets you, or a formal degree gets you. 3-year or 4-year depends upon what you want to do. A formal degree, according to me, will get you, whereas probably a short-term course may not get you.
That's wonderful, sir. I think you've raised some really interesting points, because we end up being very myopic when we look at data without realizing that, there are elements of ethics, there are elements of privacy, there is elements of how that data is being used, and having that holistic advantage is there. And as sir also mentioned, that the short-term course may be to be able to augment one element of what you want to do, or maybe get a little bit of a dip your toe in the water to figure out, but the full degree is actually what ends up being the route to take. Great, that's really super input. Thank you.
Students are lucky to have that kind of full degree courses today, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I agree. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, Professor Ishwan, can you walk us through your thoughts more on in terms of data science, and how does NIIT University help us out in pursuing that course?
So I'll make the presentation now. 7 minutes, that's what you see? Yes.
Sure. Yes. Please go through your presentation, and let's take a few questions from the audience also.
Yeah. So today's presentation which I'm making is a very short one. It is to sensitize most of you to understand how industries use information and how a lot of questions they get answered by data sciences, and across the 3 job profiles which Savinay mentioned. And this is what I would like to do. So just to introduce, I am Professor Eswaran Narasimhan, and I am from NIIT University. That's just a picture of our university. I'll go to the next slide, please. So today I would like to talk about the 5 verticals which I would like to just highlight how data is playing an important role in this. And it could be airports, it could be banking, it could be insurance, it could be surface transport, and it could be manufacturing. But each one of these verticals are ability to use data which they produce by the tons, and how do they manage to make themselves ahead in their game and be a leader in their industry. And that is what we would like to understand. Next slide, please. So airports are extremely create a huge amount of data set, excepting for the last 3-4 months when hardly any plane has flown. But the amount of plane which fly every day, it's literally in thousands, and each flight generates so much of data, so many passengers go, and you have a full understanding of how people travel. And hence there is enormous use of artificial intelligence in airports. They would like to know when people will come, how early they come, what is the time when the conveyor belt is heavily loaded, what are the times when the people will really feel fidgety, how much of delay will they tolerate, should I give them extra food if there's a delay of so much. All that is done through AI. And I'll share some examples a bit later on. And then, of course, banking, they're handling money for everyone, and the economy is dependent on how banking really works. And how do you make sure that the bag in banking is full and it is fully utilized? Money lies idle in the night. Can you move the money in the daytime to the US in the morning and then get it used there and bring it back again to India? That's some of the things which automation is trying to do. And of course, insurance is a very huge industry which relies on data to find out. Somebody had asked a question on actuarial, and insurance is one area where it understands the nuances in data. Would people in red car get into more time of accidents than people in black car? This sort of questions are being answered by the insurance companies to find out who is risk prone, who is not risk prone. If you come from a region which has got annual flooding, they will charge you slightly more premium. Whereas if you come from a desert area, they're not going to charge you for any flooding because flooding never happens there. But this understanding comes out of years of experience, and that is what you teach the software program which underwrites your particular thing. Just go back to the previous slide, please. And of course, I'm talking about the surface transport in trains, for example, understanding a facet of a surface transport and understanding a fact in manufacturing. This is how the different verticals use the data. Let's look at some examples. Next slide, please. So imagine, for example, in a manufacturing organizations, which has got a huge conveyor belt, like in a coal mine or in a ore processing facility, or even in an airport for that matter. If someone can tell you, a software program can tell you that the bearing number so and so have a 90% probability of failing in the next 24 hours. And if it fails, it's going to take you 6 hours to get it up. But if you know this, then you can take a shutdown for 15 minutes and change those particular bearings. And now you have an ability to figure out which bearing was instituted last time, when was it updated, when was it oiled, when was it greased, when was it maintained, what is the lifetime of a bearing, how long has it run. All that is available in data. Or for that matter, if suppose you tell you that you have a 6 hours window on this Saturday because the main machine is being shut down, you can do downstream maintenance. Manufacturing organizations use this. Or for example, a beer company, or if it is a liquor company which says that March 27th will see a 23% increase in orders because it's a St. Patrick's Day celebration. These are the sort of insights that organizations want, and many organizations believe by reacting to such information, they're able to perform better. And hence, data science and data scientists, along with data analysts, play a very important role in this particular area. Let's get the next slide, please. Or for that matter, imagine for a bank. I've given a bank example. For example, if you're told that the following loan accounts need a review in the next 2 weeks to avoid write-offs, they have not been paying for a while, and you have an analysis which tells you that these particular loans are not going to perform well. Or for that matter, looking at the weather conditions and weather forecast, if your system can tell that in your portfolio of banks, there is a flood forecast in Terai region, and therefore people who are going to repay back loan in that particular area, it may drop by 36%. Now that is an important information for bank for them to act upon. Or for that matter, saying that the following role requests have an exposure index of above 85%. So would you want to take a special action in granting the particular loan or not? So this sort of analysis, helps them into do this, and the verticals really do that. Just to wind up, next slide, please. For admissions, I've listed the numbers on top, and you can call them anytime, and they'll be available. Also, you can go to nituniversity.in. That's a thing. I would like to open to questions.
Thank you so much, sir. Very insightful and wonderful to get your inputs in as well. Clarified a lot of just major amounts of information that's coming my way. So I'll ask you one question, I think, and then just very specific here, more nuts and bolts kind of thing. In the whole data science process, and when you're looking at having students learn this, is there value given to elements like internships or actual hands-on industry experience that they gain that helps them along the way to be able to do that, especially at NIIT? And of course, I'll be asking, our other panelists as well. But I wanted to just get your input as to the value of industry input.
Yeah. So what happens is, we are one of our tenets in our university is to make it industry linked as well as research based. And what we do is, within the 7 semesters where our students undergo their course, we have a tie-up with more than 500 of our partners, where we get real-time and real-life projects which are given to the students such that their sensitivity to understanding industrial needs go up, and plus they focus on that aspects more clearly. Second thing, in the industry practice, which they do it in the 8 semesters, many of our organizations, especially organizations like IBM, Genpact, Big Basket, all these people are having students under the entire umbrella of data sciences, and many of them have done very well. In fact, IBM has recently allocated placements for all the students they have taken for the industrial practice, because there is a very high demand for data sciences right now, along with across all domains, not only in retail or this, but also in data security, cyber security, because the cyber security is involving enormous amount of data sciences to know that a fraud is happening, where is a intrusion happening, and especially because many of the industries are now going online and remote working.
Right, right. Wonderful. Oh, it's good to know. Brilliant to know that there is that much industry interaction. That's always very important for students to be able to actually not come in purely from a theoretical perspective, and getting that industry input really does make a massive impact. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that information. Thank you. Dr. Venkatesh, Savine, are we ready with Dr. Venkatesh if he's also back online?
Yes.
Oh, lovely. Okay. I think I'll switch off. Yeah. I'll switch off my camera so I'm not. You get to spotlight. There we go.
Perfect. So Savina, I can move the slides, right? I just click next and I'll move the slides, right?
Yes, please do.
Yeah, let me do that. That is much easier. Yeah. So basically, guys, first of all, I think the introduction from Mindler was fantastic in terms of the data and, what is data science and everything. So I will not spend too much of time on that, but I just wanted to sort of say, how data is generated, right? And I give a different perspective. So, so the way I give it, and I use this picture a couple of lot, this is basically 2005. You have, people waiting for a pope to be nominated. So what happens is every so many years, either the pope is, basically resigns or dies or something like that. He actually, they were waiting for a new pope to be nominated. So people are waiting in Rome. So the question is, and you see a few cameras. A few years later, the same thing was repeated. This is 2013. Wow. So you can see, right? 2005,
wow,
2013. And this is 2013. So you can see a huge difference, right? In terms of, what. So the question is not that everybody has a camera. Obviously, everybody has a smart camera. Everybody has a, whatever, an Apple iPad or whatever, right? The question is, what do you do once you get a picture? You share it on LinkedIn, you share it on WhatsApp, you share it on whatever the field, the social media you have. And that is how data gets generated. It's so every time you something, a data gets generated. Every time you do a financial transaction, when you do a bank transfer, data gets generated. Every time you do a Google search, data. Every time you buy something on an e-commerce company, maybe Flipkart or whatever, right, Amazon or whoever, right, data gets generated. So data gets generated everywhere. So the question is, data science is the actual science that uses the data to come up with smart insights. How do I use that data to get a betterment of my company? How do I get the data to make sure that my industry is better, or my company is better, or my business gets a better profit? That, in a very nutshell, is what data science is all about. Basically, was it already there, or was it always there, or did it happen on a sort of? And so basically, when people talk about that, right, they talk about something called an industry 4.0. You must have heard of that term, and that's a very critical term to know. So does it mean to say that industry 4.0 means there was already, so what is 3? There has to be a 3, there has to be a 2, and there has to be a 1. So basically, 1 minute I'll spend on this slide. Basically, industry 1.0 was when steam engine was invented. The moment steam engine was invented, what happened? Until that point, the people who produced the goods and the people who consumed the goods had to be close to each other. Steam engine was the first case where they had to be they don't have to be in the same place. Why? The steam engine, which is basically a train, can actually move goods from point A to point B. Similarly, in industry 2.0, electricity was invented. The moment electricity was invented, people could technically work, basically 24/7. Then the assembly line was done. As you know, from assembly line, mass production was possible. Then we came into industry 3.0, which is what we are living, basically. And, basically this is when, the whole point of smartphones, the internet was done. When the internet was done, the way I talk about internet is in 4 phases. I don't know, and the way I feel that, I may be an old man, but if you are young and if you could use internet in the 1990s, when actually the commercial internet happened, if you remember, and I don't know how many of you can even remember that, there were only something called hyperlinks. What are hyperlinks? You just have to click a point and you would be able to read news, or you would be able to read anything. I call that internet of pages. Then people figured it out. Hey, wait a minute. There's a smart way. This huge network is there. Can I connect businesses out of it? And hence, basically, I call it, basically people started connecting that to do commerce. People started connecting that to do, you could do your bank financials and things. I'm calling it Internet of Business. So Internet of Pages, Internet of Business. Then people said, this is a fantastic medium. Can I connect people with it? Can I do that raised to the social media? What is social media? The entire Facebook, whatever, Instagram, WhatsApp. And that I'm calling it Internet of People. So from Internet of Pages to Internet of Business to Internet of Pages. Then what people said was, until this point, the data was only generated by humans. Then people said, hey, is there a way for me to have smarter small things which I can connect to your body, or can I connect to a machine and that can automatically generate data? And that became Internet of Things. So basically, Internet of Things is nothing but people connecting with each other. Basically, these are called sensors or something like that, and generating data. So for example, if you have something, your phone is probably the biggest example of Internet of Things. Or if you have your, for example, Fitbit, I'm sure a lot of you have that Fitbit or things like that, right? Or similarly, they have sensors to the machines, where this is not human generated data. Even though humans are involved in that, the actual data has been generated by machines. And that is called Internet of Things. With the culmination of especially Industry 3.0, there was a huge, data being generated that gave rise to Industry 4.0, where they said, how can I basically use this data to make it very useful? And that usefulness is sort of, Internet 4.0, where things like, data science, machine learning, AI. See, people use these terms pretty loosely, right? And I'm sure there is a difference between AI and machine learning and data science. Basically, the way I see data science is the biggest umbrella, under which, you have multiple sub-umbrellas, the umbrella of data, AI or ML and things. And we'll talk about it a little bit as we go forward. And that is basically gave to Industry 4.0. So basically, the next thing is I represent Vijay Bhumi University. So I just wanted to talk about a little bit of the institute and what courses we offer and everything in this field of data science. So Vijay Bhumi University is a beautiful university. It's a fully residential university that is situated in Karjat. Guys, Karjat is near Mumbai. The people and Pune. It's actually closer to Pune. And it's a beautiful 50-acre campus. This is done by the same people who had actually started IFIM School of Business. If you're familiar with that, IFIM School of Business is one of the top 15 business schools in India. So the same management folks actually started Vijay Bhumi University. Why did they start that university? The reason they started this university is IFIM School of Business is known for two things. One, it is known for management. The second one is known for law. They actually wanted to expand it. And so they have started the Vijay Bhumi University. IFIM School of Business has a 25-year-old history. So these people who started it, the professors and everything, have that a pedigree of 25 years. Basically, if you look at Vijay Bhumi University, they said, I need to introduce these centers of excellence. And so they introduced the Center of Excellence for Law, Center of Excellence for Management, Center of Excellence for Design, and Center of Excellence for Data Science. Which they're calling it School of Design, School of Law, School of Management, and School of Data Science. The School of Management and Business is what IFIM was known for, so their professors are teaching. School of Design, they have actually basically hired probably the best in the industry to do that. For the School of Data Science, they have actually now worked with INSOFI. So they have partnered with INSOFI, which I am part of. INSOFI stands for International School of Engineering. We are actually based in 3 places: Hyderabad, Bangalore, and Mumbai. We are about, we have about 25 full-time professors who work there. And when I use the word full-time, I mean completely full-time. Plus we have 7 adjunct faculty, and all of them are PhD. So one thing about our thing is all of them happens to have a PhD from, out of all of them, one except one, all of them happen to have a PhD from US. It happens so way. And one of them is from PhD from Indian Institute of Science. My PhD was from University of Colorado. So basically, that Indian Institute INSOFI actually is so they established the School of Data Science, INSOFI School of Data Science. In Vijay Bhumi University, we are planning to offer 3 courses: Bachelor of Science in Data Science, Bachelor of Engineering in AI, and Masters in AI. So why do we need 3 courses? And this is exactly sort of matches towards the what should I say, careers, it was earlier said, right? Bachelor of Science in Data Science is for people who want to do both business and data science, which means to say they want to do not too much of math. They want to do more of visualization. They want to do more of understanding the business, talking to the hardcore data scientists, and then talking to the business side. So for people who want to do that, who really don't want to do too much of math, too much of programming, the Bachelor of Science program is there for them. The Bachelor of Engineering is basically a program for hardcore, you want to really go deep into data science. It's a 4-year degree program where you will learn not just the data science, the programming part of it, you'll also learn big data, IoT, robotics. So it's a very, very intensive 4-year degree program. The next one is Masters of Science in Data Science. This is for people who have done their undergrad not in data science, right? You could have done in BE in, let's say, computer science. You could have done BE in, mechanical engineering. You could have done your, BCom. Anybody who has done an undergrad who wants to get into data science, we have a master's program. So all these programs have been designed for different things. So obviously the bachelor's programs are for 10+2 folks, and master's program is for your basic people who have your undergrad degree. Now, what is so special about what should I say, Vijay Bhumi University? A couple of slides and then I'll end my presentation and then we take a lot of questions, guys. So first one is, it's called India's first liberal university. What does that mean? Basically, as I spoke earlier, right, we are very strongly believe in the 360-degree education. So every person who takes a course in Vijay Bhumi University, in addition to data science, must take courses in 6 areas. The 6 areas are, basically law, humanities, language you need to do. So things like that, which are completely different from, so we make sure that the students take the courses so that you get a 360 education. And that's why we call it India's first liberal professional university. Second thing, International School of Data Science, I talked about it. That is the way that is the INSOF we have partnered with them. One of the other time, which is very, very critical for us, and which is something data science that, the question was asked last time, it's a very appropriate question. Data science cannot be learned by theory, guys. It has to have hands-on. So one of the things that we do, and this is very critical that we do, is 50% of our time we dedicate it for hands-on, 50% for theory. And that is very, very critical in terms of what we do in terms of that. And the fourth one is, as somebody had a couple of questions, right? What is after I do my data science, if I want to pursue my degree in a master's or PhD, master's or something, do I have a collaboration with foreign universities? And that is something in international pathways with global universities. So this is something we do. Also, in addition to that, in INSOFI, what we do is our professors spend only 50% of the time in teaching. For me, for example, the other 50%, we do 2 things. One, we actually do consulting. So we consult to most of the top, what should I say, Fortune 500 companies. Right now, I'm doing 2 consulting projects. One with, unfortunately, I can't tell the name, one of the biggest oil producers in the world. The second one is one of the biggest steel company in the world. And to be honest, my background is in telecommunication, 4G and 5G. My PhD was in, wireless communication, not to do with steel or, but that is the challenge of data science, guys. And that is why when we say liberal university or a liberal professional university, you need to basically, that's what the teaching, we make sure that, that you ask the right questions. Doesn't mean that I'm an expert in steel or an expert in, oil, right? Obviously, I cannot be an expert in that. But that is what you need to do. And that is what a data scientist needs to do.
Wonderful. So thank you so much. That was I'm really glad. I'm going to let you get to this, but I'm really glad you covered the industry experience, because that was going to be a question I was going to come at you with. I'll let you complete this, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. And so basically a couple of slides, and then we'll take, because I understand the questions are more important than the the slides. So the question is, and basically I will basically go to the next slide, and so that hold on a second. For whatever reason, I'm not been able to go to the next slide.
So the slides are moving, sir.
But unfortunately, I can't see them. So there is a lag on my part, on my...
Which slide do you need it to be on? Do you want, what do you need it to say?
So the next slide, I'm assuming, is... I'm sorry, I don't know why my connection is acting funny suddenly.
At the moment, what's visible to us is a chart that says healthcare, number of jobs, driverless transportation.
Okay, fantastic. So that is a slide I wanted to talk about. Basically, does it say the types of jobs and
it says industry, number of jobs.
So what I've done, guys, and thank you very much, and I appreciate it. I'm sorry, I don't know why my connection is acting funny suddenly.
No problem at all.
Basically, yeah.
We are learning this. This is part of one of our data inputs. We understand this happens, so don't worry about it.
One of the things I did was the jobs, right? So I just went into LinkedIn, I went into multiple places to see what types of jobs are available. As you can see, right, the number of jobs are available in so many industries, are so many, that it is amazing that, that we have so many jobs. So I just wanted to put a thing, and on the right side, you can see the sort of the average salaries and everything that people can get. So if you can help me with the next slide, what are you seeing for the next slide?
Now we're seeing BSc in data science and a chart that takes it to 1 year at a Rainier School of Business MSc
exactly.
degree.
Thank you. Exactly. So the last, I think this is probably the last slide. Basically, what are your international options, guys? So one of the things that we have done is, from Vijay Bhumi University is we have partnership with multiple universities. So let's say you do a BSc with us. We have our understanding with Ren School of Business, where actually if you do your 3-year degree, then you can finish your MSc in data analytics 1 year. In addition to that, one of the things that they waive your IETS, which is your TOEFL equivalent, but more than that, they give you 5 years of work visa for whole of EU, which is a big deal because 5 years you can work any whole of EU. Similarly, if you do a master's program, we teach from Carleton University, folks come and teach here in product development and things like that. Finally, if you look at the BE program, if we have, if you do your 4 years here, we have an understanding with Case Western University. Case Western University is one of the top universities in US, if you're familiar with Case Western, where Cleveland Clinic is associated with Case Western University. It's one of the top research centers for COVID today. So basically, they've said for 9 months, you can do your master's in biomedical engineering or robotics. In addition to that, they give you 5 years of OPT. OPT is something optional practical training. Generally, they give you for 3 years, but they have made sure that they can give it to you for 5 years. In addition to that, they also are waiving GRE and TOEFL. So we have partnerships with the multiple foreign universities. So it's not just one of the goals for us is to either, as people are saying, to make you either career ready or to make you research ready. Career ready means to say we teach you so much that so we definitely you can get a great job in one of the either the local either an Indian companies or an MNC or multiple companies. Or research ready, if you really want to pursue your master's or a PhD, you can do that.
Wonderful.
And what is this my last slide? I do not know.
Yes, sir. It says Bachelor of Science, BSc, Data Science, 3 years and things.
Basically, we have 3 programs. Bachelor of Science for people who don't want to do too much of math, basically a business analyst kind of a job. BE for a data scientist or a data engineer. MS, similar, but more of, since you've done your undergrad, more of a managerial role with data science. So these are the 3 programs you're offering. Thank you very much, and I'm open for questions, please.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you so much. You gave a very holistic presentation. They're very helpful. Sir, I wanted to be able to check with Professor Eswaran, if I could, just for 1 minute, sir. When you look at NIIT University, you look at what is it that the university is looking for. What kind of candidates do you look at? What are the kind of international collaborations NIIT has? And that exposure, like you said, the internship exposure and the industry exposure happens. And so what do you look for in a candidate when they're coming in to study data sciences at any level?
So, we have a slightly different admission procedure. So while there are some academic related gates we'll have to cross in terms of your percentages in 10th and 12th and sort of thing.
Right.
More importantly, we have what we call as an interaction session with the students, where we believe that we don't have a gate where it is test driven or something. We actually interact with the students to understand their background, their interest, and whether their ability to cope and how well they'll move with the essentially with the remaining students, and what will be the campus learning like. And in the process, what we are also saying is that within the campus, as Professor Venkatesh also said, that it is not purely academic, but there are a lot of activities which happen within the campus. And the way we look at it is that we believe students can participate and contribute in many fashions. So, for example, just an example, if 5 students set up a Hindi play, for example,
right,
that could be graded as a part of a humanities course.
Oh, very nice.
Our grading is not purely academic driven. So you have some percentage of marks which is driven by a group activity or by an individual activity where they do something, and depending on how well they do it, and there's a panel which actually grades it and gives marks according to that. So we have a very high focus on clubs, and we have over 22 clubs of various kinds where people participate both in technical and non-technical areas, and these
Nice.
are part of their learning.
Mhm.
And this is one of the things, of course. And of course, as universities go and our place goes, we have had a good couple of recommendations of where we have won our beautiful campus award and things like that. But the main point is that the students are academics is just one portion what they learn.
Right.
Our university looks at four aspects of it. One, of course, I said industry linked, which I mentioned before. We are
Right.
research based. We are looking at it. It is technology driven, and
Okay.
we are one fourth aspect which are very passionate about is something called seamlessness. And we
Mhm.
believe that the education and the learning which they do is seamless with other activities around themselves and with the world. And that's
Could you
where
give
we are.
could you give me an example of seamlessness, sir? Like, for
So,
example.
seamlessness in many places. So, as I said, one of the seamlessness is your aspect of grading. I said it is not academic grading alone; it's a non-academic activities also get graded like academics.
Right.
Second thing is that from a physical seamlessness, where we are saying that our campus is open, it is right up to Aravali Hills, and you don't have a border. We don't have a fence. You can walk
Mm.
into that and do that. The third aspect of seamlessness is the interdisciplinary approaches. We have where even students from biotech, for example, they can do projects in CSE, for example, depending on their
Oh,
need.
lovely. Yeah. Yeah.
So
No, that was
we
one of
have
the
project
questions I
teams.
had. Yeah.
We have project teams which are from CSE or ECE and biotech combined together. We have project teams across first year, second year, and third year. So you could be
Wow.
doing a project where all three people are involved, where the first year is doing his math understanding of statistics and so on. The second year is actually doing the plumbing work of coding and things like that. The third day could be guiding the project from a project management perspective.
Also great. So elements like teamwork and being able to work with different type of stakeholders and exposures and all that come in. So that's wonderful. Have you had situations where your data science students have actually interacted with maybe somebody from the School of Humanities and they've come up with a project together? Has that
Yes,
also happened?
one of the things that's the reason I said this, because of the rich experience. We had placed 32 students in the industrial practice last year, and
Mm-hmm.
all of them have been accepted by IBM.
Wonderful.
So, and as I said, in rich domains such as data analysis, data sciences, and as well as cybersecurity.
Wonderful. So placements is of course therefore for data science specifically because
It is not only in
not
high demand. It's not only in high demand, but the curriculum has been ratified and validated by the company of the likes of IBM, who have, and Infosys, who have said that it's a curriculum valid for the current world what they want at this point.
wonderful. So you are actually looking at industry input when it comes to your curriculum design as well and doing. Wonderful, wonderful. That's really great to know. So that's wonderful. Does your university happen to offer PhD levels as well? Because I saw some of the questions that were flying back and
Yes,
forth asking for PhD.
we do have PhD positions, and typically we have students coming in, not our own students. Some of them do approach, but we do have postgraduates coming from the wanting to do who also would like to teach and continue with the PhD at our places. We have PhD situations at GIS at this point of time, where GIS is one of the most preferred desktop application going forward, because everything is viewed in a geographical manner these days, especially when you don't travel.
Wonderful. How exciting. Yes, very interesting. We uh, we lost Professor Venkatesh and he dropped off. I think his net connectivity was really giving him a lot of issues.
Yes, I think he dropped out.
Oh. Okay. Savinay, your last one. Have I missed a question? Have I missed something? Please help. Old age. Please help me. Have I missed something?
No, we are good.
I think we covered everything, right? Yeah.
Yes. So,
So
just
I'd just
we
like
can-
to
please
I'd just like to leave a message with all the people. I have not had an opportunity to look at the chat window, but there were some fleeting observations I had. NITuniversity.in is the website. I have given the two phone numbers which you can have a look at it. And more importantly, any questions are welcome, both at the 1800 numbers. I think the last slide has it. The last slide has the
Yeah.
numbers.
Last slide, I think, had the numbers. Yes.
So if you go to the
So,
yes.
sir, now with the new scenario that's there, so you're going to be conducting in the interactions on a e-platform and being able
Yes.
to do that.
Well, the entire admission has happened on an e-platform. Not only the basic evaluation as well as the interaction process has happened on the e-platform, and we are having a close to 270 odd in this batch who have expressed interest in joining so far.
So you're looking at starting your semester by September,
We
or
are
by
starting the September we are starting the new batches by the first week of August.
okay, all right, okay. So you're moving along normally, and not really because there is going to be a delay with some board results and things like that coming in,
Yes,
because those.
we have said that the board results, we have a provisional admission procedure. If a board results
Okay.
quite contrary to what one expects, then there is an offer to get out, and with no loss to the student. And
Okay, great.
and also that we are starting the admissions in August first week, and completely online or mixed classes and flipped classrooms are there, so that it is within the norms of the social distancing and the UGC guidelines. At the same time, there is a fair amount of fun and activity still involved in the picture.
Super, that's great. So obviously students can then begin their application process now to be able to start, and the application
Yeah.
process is still open. Wonderful. So application process still open, and is there any preference for PCM students, or can it be any student with a maths with it?
Since it is we are offering courses in CSE, ECE, there is a basic school math is a must. PCM students are there, but as we said along that, it does not really hamper the MBA students, where we are saying integrated MBA. It could be any branch if it's an integrated MBA where you could where you're doing in data science, for example.
Right. Okay. All right. Wonderful. Great. I think we've covered some of the relevant questions that kids were also asking that they wanted to know about. So great. Wonderful. Thank you so much, sir, for your time, and for such great insight that you gave in. That was very kind of you. Savinay?
Yes, Shilpa, thank you. Thanks for all your time. Thanks for your insights, sir.
Thank
Really
you.
loved the session taking along with you. It's our honor.
Yeah,
Thank you,
please
Shilpa, for providing your insights.
ask the questions, if any, specifically, or you are able to collate it, then maybe my colleagues can access it. And
Yes, sir. So your team has been answering a few queries directly over chat over there. I think
Yeah.
someone from your team was already there. Thank you guys. Thank you for your time. Shilpa, anything
Yes,
you want to
thank
conclude?
you. No, thank you, everyone. We hope you gained a lot of insight on data sciences and being able to demystify it a little bit and understand the immense opportunities that exist for all of us when it comes to data. And we hope we were able to help you with your queries. In case you have specific queries or you'd like us to pass on queries to our panelists today, please reach out to us at hello@mindler.com, and we'll be happy to either pass on a query or answer a specific query for you if required. Look forward to seeing you in more sessions. Thank you for your time and attention. Thank you so much. Take care of yourself. Stay safe. Thank you so much, sir. Very kind of you. Please stay safe.
for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.